Bournemouth's FA Cup journey came to an end yesterday against Manchester City in a performance where the two halves were polar opposites of each other. The first half, well, we survived a penalty scare thanks to Kepa. We took the lead and we could have even made it more. However, in the second half, different story. City came out, they scored early, they controlled the game, they scored again, they controlled the game some more, and they ended up comfortably winning the match. In fairness, they probably could have won it by a larger margin. This ensured that all four away sides prevailed and went to the next round of the FA Cup, which of course is the semi-finals at Wembley. So it's Palace, Forest, Villa and City. We didn't want that last word to be City, but it is, mate. Bournemouth, not at Wembley. It was a performance.
He summed that up well, mate.
In the second half to forget, but I feel deflated. I don't know about you, mate.
No, I do. I think it's not, like I say, yeah, we weren't very good in the second half, but it's not really that. It's not any kind of frustration at the players or the club or anything. We've exceeded expectations by so much, so now we feel like, a 2-1 defeat against City when we're ahead feels awful when we used to not even get near them to lay a glove on them. But it's more the frustration just of, I think, the fact that we were leading, and at half time you're thinking we are 45 minutes from Wembley, and we'll obviously come on to it, but the way we started the second half was the frustration for me. Is he would have definitely said, you get through the first 10 minutes, do you know what I mean? Them sort of cliches, and it just didn't happen, mate, for whatever reason. I'm sure we'll go on to it, but as you know, mate, I was obviously it was Mother's Day as well, but it was actually World Bipolar Day, and that was the most bipolar set of a game I've ever seen. First half to second half, unbelievable the difference. But yeah, we'll have to dissect why we think that is, mate. But I think there's a few reasons, and one of them we've got to say is that Man City were class in the second half.
Oh, absolutely, they were. But it's the hope that kills you. It's the manner of the second half performance that I think maybe deflates me a bit, because we weren't what we're capable of being, I thought, in the second half. And yeah, credit should go to Manchester City for controlling the game like they did. But I just feel as though some individuals collectively, we weren't that great. And I tell you what, I've had a brief look at Twitter, and some people on social media are using this opportunity to maybe deploy their own blame games, with some players taking the flak for what was, it was a frustrating exit. But after the dust has settled, we need to have a level head. That doesn't mean that there are players that are beyond criticism, because we need to chat about the ones that maybe made us frustrated. But we also need to look forward to the rest of the season as well, because, that is our only thing now, isn't it?
There's still a lot to play for, mate. Yeah, we don't normally, if you try and forget the cup, you go, well, we're not normally in a position that we're in now, in terms of we could do something really special still. So we've got bounced back quick. I quite like the fact that we've got a game on Wednesday, because I think obviously we've got a couple back from suspension anyway, which will help because they rested. But I think it's more the fact of you can just get straight back out there and like right the wrongs and just go and put a good performance in at home again. So yeah, I do think that's a good thing in certain ways.
You know what? One thing this weekend was good for me. It restored this magic of the FA Cup thing, which I've been 100%. Saying for seasons that's been lost. But I really enjoyed the whole feeling of it. And like, as much as this feeling of pain, and it was pain, that's the most painful I felt after a football match in a long time. As much as that's so hard to bear, in a way, I'm glad we had the opportunity to experience it, because the magic is there. So it's not like our Carabao Cup exit to West Ham or whatever. That was in an early round, of course, but I don't know. This did feel special, even more so because the eyes of the nation and internationally were maybe on us. And look, we were up for it. The fans were up for it. There were rallying cries from Steve Fletcher on social media. Noel Gallagher was there. Steve Cook was there. Saw him after the game. Yes. It was all set up to be one hell of a game. However, when the teams came out, mate, at 3:30, there was obviously we knew 2 omissions, but there was a third. Yeah,
Tavernier. I think we spoke in the preview about there's a few decisions to be made. Probably the main ones were Solesi or Hill, Soler or Dango, probably. But I didn't even think about Tav not being available. Real blow.
Do you know what the issue was?
Did he say ankle? I've got a feeling he said ankle against Brentford.
So does that mean Ipswich, West Ham?
Yeah, I reckon he's looking like he'd be back for Fulham by the sounds of it. It's not. He said it's not serious, but because of the quick turnaround in games, and I think in my head I'm going, well, the Fulham one's that Monday as well. Give him a little bit extra time. You don't need to. He has had injuries this season, so you don't want to rush him back. But that was a real blow because even if he was just enough for the bench, because it's not only the energy in that he brings us, it's the fact that he can deploy in so many positions. Yeah. But the positive was definitely seeing Adam Smith on the bench because that was a surprise.
Yeah, that was really nice.
And I did. If I'm honest, I thought maybe they've just chucked him on the bench to be like in the dressing room instead of a kid because he ain't going to. But he come on, which means he is fit. And obviously, big chance for Soler and really pleased to see Selessi back. Perfect timing.
I actually thought that Adam Smith coming on, it sort of it maybe frees up Cook somewhat.
Exactly.
He looked good. It's not like he looked like a deer in the headlights being back in a Bournemouth shirt. I mean, he never does. He's so experienced. Yeah. However, I think that makes him a feasible option even for the next game.
Absolutely, mate.
Be really interesting to see what he does.
And with Hill back as well, because Hill could play anywhere across that back line. Selessi now back, House out of suspension. Now suddenly we've got a little bit more options where we can, because I did feel, obviously we'll come on to it again, mate, but I did feel yesterday he's not stupid and he could tell that something needs to change it, and he could only do so much because of the options that we had on the bench and on the pitch. Whereas when you've got players obviously like Tav, but also like Hill and you can move Cookie in and all this stuff, it just means you can do a little bit more. So that will help.
And as for them though, they were strong.
They were strong, mate. It was hard to call. I was surprised that they didn't really go with any natural width. So Bernardo Silva and Foden, and more like tuck it in. So that surprised me a little bit. And they went for Nunes at right back instead of Rico Lewis. So someone that's not naturally that position. Obviously, Ederson come back in goal as well. But yeah, when you look at it, the only thing because I was with you, mate, I thought, I'm a little bit gutted seeing the team just because of Tav. But when I looked at their midfield, I thought, don't get me wrong, they're class. But Gundogan, Kovacic, De Bruyne, I went, they're all in their 30s.
Legs, yeah.
I just thought, we might be able to win that battle, which we did last time we played them. But
alas, not to be. And look, it's easy to say this in hindsight, but when you look at it, if I can sort of quantify the loss against Manchester City, let's not forget the team that's dominated football for the last 10 years or so. 3 young lads on the bench. Senesi just back from injury. Dango, who's just been through Ramadan, which is a period of time, by the way, where a lot of players in the Premier League are often under par. So I didn't realise it was actually drink as well as food, so he can't even hydrate during the day. And of course, Soler untested in that position pretty much. Yep. Against Manchester City, Christie being managed, Tavernier out, etc., and then the strength of the City side. So to play like we did in the first half, for me, was superb. So at half-time, we were absolutely loving it. And you know what? We'll go through the minutiae of the first half, but even before the game began, we knew who we would be playing. City, but Forest.
Oh, that was the perfect draw.
I mean, it was really, I don't know. I don't know what I'd have liked.
You're an idiot.
Villa?
You're an idiot. When did we last lose to Forest?
A long time ago.
It's an unbelievable, and I'm having a little bit of a joke because Forest have been brilliant this season, and there's a few Forest fans I watch. So, but in all seriousness, them 3 teams, Villa, Forest, Palace, we could lose to all of them. We could beat them all. There's no real massively better option than worse. So you do the one that you're best against, surely. And Forest would have been going, no, not again. We've got to play Bournemouth. Like they've got. It's a bit like if we had got Brentford, obviously, are out. We would go. People would go, well, Bournemouth probably slight favourites. We never beat Brentford. Like it's that sort of feeling, mate. So we were honestly at half time when I saw you, I thought we're in the final.
What's bad about it is that I really wanted to, had we played Forest, I suppose, you're right, probably the favourable draw, but. Even though I think they're one of the beatable teams out of those last other 3, I now, being in the position I'm in, I really want them to win it.
Yeah, so I know what you're saying.
More than anyone else, probably.
Yeah, I think my main thing is that I desperately don't want City to win it, and that's not being horrible. That's just because I want one of the other 3. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean. And yeah, there was part of me, obviously, it's all irrelevant now, that was kind of thinking, actually, imagine Bournemouth Forest final. The 2 teams that come up together that are exceeding expectations, it would have been incredible. But yeah, word to be, mate. But I think what was interesting is I wasn't watching the draw, nor were you. We were outside, weren't we?
Yeah, we just had to cheer.
That says it all though about the fix. The fact that they cheer, everyone cheered, I think shows that. Whereas I think if it was Villa, people would have gone, oh. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure about Palace, but
Palace is a bit of an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And our record's been
iffy.
Especially now under Glasner, I think just there. a little
Yeah.
bit more well drilled.
Yeah.
But look, we started, by the way, credit to the club for putting on a proper pre-match. Music from the Coco Loco outside, all the normal food outlets and bands and stuff, musicians, and then inside, all the usual pyro stuff, live on ITV. Sorry to everyone that watched. Sam Matface was the commentator. Apparently he's not very well liked.
Really?
Not sure why. Plenty of cliches, etc. But thankfully we were in there, so we were watching with our own eyes, and we were watching a very intense start from both sides, really. But it was Haaland that probably had their first chance. Nunes cross, Haaland headed it wide, and then a couple of minutes later Haaland had another chance to score, this time from the spot. Tyler Adams, he had his hands in what is an unnatural, I mean, it's not unnatural in football. It's unnatural if you're standing at Tesco's in the queue or you're fast asleep. You don't, but in football that is natural. But
it was also going to be given, and I think
hands away from the ball.
Yeah, and I think Tyler, you could see by his reaction, he was kind of going, yeah, I know it is. He wasn't saying he didn't hit me. No. He was going, well, yeah, I know, but what am I supposed to do? Exactly. But he also knew that's what happens nowadays, and it is one of them. We would want it as well. So, but it was a moment you go, can Kappa finally save a pen? Let's see.
And how? How you didn't watch, did you?
No.
You didn't watch. I was expecting the net to bulge, but Haaland, I mean, I'm sure that on his water bottle he's got all the different stats about where Haaland tends to go. He guessed right, dived to his left, and what really impressed me, look, some people could say it's a poor penalty. Well, that's what they always say when they hit it along the floor like that to one side and it misses. Had he
dived the other way,
it'd have been like, perfect.
Cool. Yeah. No, I know.
I think we've got to give credit to Kappa for two reasons. For one, for being so strong with the save, but not parrying. He actually gathered it straight away, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And yeah, it was a great save. I was really pleased for him because he's obviously had, I mean, we might come on to another, but he's had a few lately, hasn't he, that haven't gone well for him. So to do that early on in the game, I thought, it's a massive moment. And you know, when little things happen and we save a penalty against Haaland, you just think, oh my God, it's our time, isn't it?
It is. And at that point of the game, Semenyo was actually having a relatively good game. I think he had to do a lot of work because he needed to help Soler out. So he was visibly sort of more retreated than he ever would be. But sometimes when he had his chance to run one-on-one with like Nunes, who's in right back, it looked like from the team lineups that he was one side, but it was clear that he was on the left-hand side. And there was a moment where he was kind of doing step overs and blazed it over the bar.
Like he does.
Just one of them from Semenyo. I've never seen him blaze it over the bar before.
No, he never does that. But no, I think there'll obviously be criticism, and there has been for Antoine because of the drop off in terms of what he was doing earlier in the season. But I think it's easy to forget. Me and you were saying to each other in that first period, like, oh, look how much he's helping Soler here, and you know what I mean. He did start right. It's easy to forget in that first half. He does cause some problems, and I do think that the reason they didn't play the young lad Rico Lewis was because of Semenyo.
Really, right.
You know, they haven't really got, because obviously Walker left, and obviously they got a few injuries at the back, and I say, well, I guess it's going to be Lewis because and Nunes is a centre midfielder, really. Obviously, he has played fullback before, but I think they're wary of Semenyo because why else do you not play your right back? You know, so I think that's credit to him, and he's still the one you want the ball to go to in that opening period, in my opinion.
But speaking of that left side, some fantastic pressuring from Soler caused a very loose ball from City, which was intercepted by Lewis Cook, and then he managed to flick it with the outside of his right boot to sort of David Brooks. It reminded me of another Brooks cross. I can't remember where, but he just fizzed a ball into the far stick. Can't remember the game. It was relatively recently as well. But Kluivert was there. And he got this touch, the most acute angle you'll ever see. It was going in, but then a mixture of Evan Nilsson and
Kujanov, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we were convinced it was an own goal, but it went down to Evan Nilsson's, and I'm glad that it was. But AFC Bournemouth went 1-0 up. Scenes.
Absolute scenes, mate. And like I say, it's a good point to go all the way back to that. The Soler was the one that was pressing well, and I think it actually made me inadvertently say to you, let's 60 million minimum for Soler. We found another one, but no, really pleased for him. And then, and I think, a lot of the time, and probably most people, myself included, if Tav was fit, Brooks doesn't play. And that's a moment of quality that he'll never lose that, regardless of whether you think the way we play suits him is another argument, but that ball is perfect. That's an unbelievable ball. Kluivert does so well, and Ever was wet like all strikers should be. He's there to bundle it home. So absolutely buzzing for him. Thought, oh my, I was struggling to celebrate because I was just, oh my God, do you know what I mean? Like, and then I was just like, just get off time. And Kepa made some saves, mate. I think
he did. There was a shot from Gundogan, wasn't there? That low
really
down to his right hand side. But we had chances too. Semenyo flashed the ball across the box. No one was there. And also David Brooks had a free kick as well, which was flicked on by a City defender, but Senesi was outstretched and so close to connecting with it. Any touch, it would have been in.
He's so good at that, isn't he, Senesi? We used to always say, like, it's weird how Zaba never seems to look like he's going to score from a corner, but
unless it's for his country,
of course. But or against Luton, but Senesi does always seem to, and they're not just all headers, are they? He seems to always. Was it Newcastle? He done one like that, but he always just seems to stretch and nearly get onto it. He's got that little instinct in the box. Ake used to have it actually, but that would have been if you had said to me, Kepa saved a penalty and then Senesi scored on his first game back. I mean, it would have been our time. But it was nice to still have chances in that first half, mate.
Has he scored this season, Senesi?
Oh, I don't think he has because he hasn't really played much, has he?
He scored in pre-season, didn't he?
Oh yeah, did he score against Wrexham?
Yeah. Which I think we went to.
Yeah, we were at that game. Saw that live,
yeah. Yeah, because we were there.
Yeah, we were there, weren't we?
Look, we'll take a look at the shots chalkboard at this point, because this is pretty much where all the excitement ends in the Manchester City penalty box. There were, how many shots is that? 5 shots. Not all of them on target, but there we go. Manchester City pretty much dominated in that department with shots inside the box, outside the box, and the attacking momentum. If we take a look at that, this is probably an apt time to check it, because in the first half it was relatively evenly matched. Yes, they had more, but check out that for the second half. Barely a sniff. But we weren't expecting that, were we? At half time we were out there on the concourses and we were all maybe a bit upbeat, maybe a little bit in disbelief. Yeah,
I think so.
Maybe.
I was glad you didn't put all our conversations on the vlog, mate, because I was getting a little bit carried away.
You were on booking.com, booking your hotel rooms, weren't you?
I was just like this.
£20 now. Transport.
I was like, this is happening. But we didn't expect that. I don't think City expected to suddenly have that much control either, and they made a really clever substitution, obviously. But for whatever reason, mate, because I don't think he's not said go out and be worse. Yeah. Did when they started dominating the ball and scored so early, did the lads kind of lose a bit of belief and maybe think, oh no, we're going to throw it away, and maybe the thought of getting a Wembley with us was a bit too. I don't know. There's surely loads of reasons, but I didn't see it coming. I didn't think, in all seriousness, I thought it was going to be a tough half. Yeah. But I didn't think it would go like that, mate.
Look, there are reasons for this, but can I be controversial?
Yeah,
what I say?
Yeah.
That's probably the most Gary O'Neill half of football I've had under Andoni.
Yeah, maybe.
Bit harsh?
Not
really.
Probably under, maybe.
Sorry, Gary, but look, I mean, it was
in terms of not having the ball.
We didn't have a single shot, and there were times where that happened frequently.
This is where, as much as I shouldn't say as before, we do like loads of stats, but this is why stats are rubbish.
Yeah.
We had more possession in the second half than the first.
Really?
Yep.
Did we?
Yep.
I think overall it was like 35% to us or something.
Yeah, I think it was like first half 30, second half 34, something. But we had slightly more of the ball in the second half, which just shows, because there's no person in the world that thinks we were better than this. And that just proves the point that it's what you do when you get it.
Possession stats. Rubbish.
Yes, a load of crap. And we've said that loads of times, haven't we? We're normally worse when we have more of it. But yeah, like I say, they deserve a lot of credit, but obviously we're here more to dissect Bournemouth. So we've got to be critical of certain things, mate. But as I say, that's top manager when he brings on a young lad who changed the game.
Yeah, he did. I mean, at this point, it's actually probably worth taking a look at the match timeline just to see what happened. So yeah, Kusanov, who was it an own goal? Was it not? Either way, Nick O'Reilly came in, and he's a young English talent.
Yes, I saw him English.
We weren't sure.
Yeah, because we've barely seen him. He played. The only time I've seen him, when I realised that was his only other game, was against Plymouth in the last round, and he scored 2. So there's a player there, but obviously he comes on and gets both assists, but just gave him something a bit different, gave him some energy, and you throw someone in like that, and they just, as we'll come on to, mate, I just thought the key was not conceding early.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. I think, the ball's up their end, and then it was kind of controlled by Kevin De Bruyne in the middle of the pitch. You found O'Reilly, who was just, bombing on down that left flank. And if you're looking on the cameras, you don't even know that Haaland is there. But then the ball was played right across. Yeah. Haaland, Andy Carroll, slides in at the far post, and the deflation, mate. And what was weird, I mean, because it's Man City, instantly your thoughts just okay, we're going out of the cup. But sometimes there's a reaction.
Of course, yeah.
Didn't see a single reaction in the whole of that half, which was probably one of the most disappointing things. Hence, Andoni Iraola made some changes a little bit earlier than what he usually would, with the departure of Soler and Brooks for James Hill and Dango Ouattara, but again, didn't really have any effect. And some of those, you'd have to say, Dango, I don't think was particularly great. We'll go on to other substitutions later that just were not effective as well. But then only a few moments after that, Pep then makes a change that proves to be a decisive one with Haaland, who was injured.
He looked bad. He was on crutch at the end.
He was coming out of Vitality, yeah.
That was all right.
Assisted with them. But Marmoush, their Egyptian king, who... It felt like they only had a couple of touches, or maybe it was his first touch, I don't know. But it wasn't long before they were 2-1 up, and we could probably question ourselves as to how that happened, because a lot of people pointing the finger at Semenyo.
Yeah, I actually think both goals come from that side. So you can look at Lewis as well, because he's the right back.
Yeah.
And Semenyo went over to that right side, didn't he? And it just looks like he's lost his man completely. So they've got in, but they've got in down that side both times, so you can look at that. I also don't think we've done enough to get rid of it. And then Semenyo slides, and I don't know what he's doing, really. What I will say is, and I'm not trying to get like, we've been robbed. If you go back in that move, there's a handball.
Oh, is it?
I've seen it back. I'll show you later. But Bernardo Silva, he's on the floor, like someone's sort of, and he just does, it just hits his, it's not, he doesn't mean to do it, just hits his arm on the floor, all the players they play on, and apparently, of course it's a stupid ball because I thought, why didn't they, apparently, because Semenyo touched the ball, that's the end of the phase.
Oh, okay.
So then it starts again, so we couldn't get it. Apparently, I'm not 100%, but yeah, that was one of them where he should have cleared it, and I think that the shot gets hit so close, and Kepa's, Zavani's there. It comes out in quicker. I'm still going to say that a goalkeeper of his calibre should save it. But I can also see why it's got in, looking back. And listen, we've criticised him a few times lately because he's made the one against Brentford where he come out wasn't good enough. Yeah. But I'm not being funny to go mad at Kepa when the only reason we were in the game at that point was Kepa.
If you take him out of the game one way or another, we've still lost.
Exactly. It was frustrating for him because he knows he's having a good game, and one like that, he'll look back and go, because it's just not through. He just needs to get something on it. But
he's getting a little bit on the forums or on social media. A few comments about him. Obviously, people questioning whether we should buy him or not. Some people absolutely not. All this kind of stuff.
It's difficult to know because obviously we'll never know the wages and stuff like that, so we can never be sure. But from the reports that we can have him for €6 million, apparently. I mean, come on. I think he's, and Andoni's, I watched back.
Still young as well, by the way.
Yeah, and for a goalkeeper, definitely. But Andoni was obviously on the pitch and that talking before the game. I watched it all back, and it was quite obvious that when they were talking about the youngsters that he gives a chance, and he was a few times he mentioned the fact, but that's where Lewis Cook, and he kept saying Kepa.
Yeah,
are good in the dressing room. And I wonder if he's a liked character as well. Them sort of things help. I think we kept Neto for as long as we did because they always said that. So if you've lost someone that's good in the dressing room in Neto, if Kepa does that equally, he's a better goalkeeper in my opinion. So yeah, it was disappointing for him because I think on another day saves it, but it's what it is. And then we never ever looked like. I kept saying to people because obviously we're all there like, oh come on, just want one more chance. Then we got another half hour. Yeah. There's no way we're surviving because they'll just go and score next, but obviously you never know with football. But yeah, it just didn't happen. Nothing materialised at all.
The concentration areas there indicate that Bournemouth were barely in Manchester City's third, as you can see. Had a bit more action going on down the left-hand side, but as for City, it was clear that they were targeting our left-hand side, which obviously with Soler there being thrown into the mix, they thought, and we'll see this from the average positions later on, it looks like it was a targeted position, but certainly the graphic gets darker the further you go down the pitch. So Manchester City, they were dominating. So we tried to mix things up. They before that took off Foden, brought on Grealish, and then Alex Scott and Adam Smith. Great to see Smith back. Evan Nilsson and Christie making way. Alex Scott came on.
Yep.
He had a few sort of touches of the ball, but I'm finding him a little bit. I still don't know what he is.
Yeah, are we kind of going
in Andoni's system? Though.
Yeah, are we going to dip into the subs really? Because obviously later on in the game, Jefferson come on for Celeste. Yeah. So I think in terms of just dipping into the subs, and this is kind of the wider point in that a lot of people are saying that when we understandably lose energy. And then you're playing against a team that are so good at keeping the ball, and you need to chase something. No disrespect, but Andoni's looking at that bench, and he ain't got much. He ain't got much to do. They're bringing on the players that you've mentioned, mate, which is ridiculous. But
one of them's a keeper for us. 3 of them are kids.
Yes, one good enough for Watford on loan. And then you basically got Scott and Matar, haven't you? And obviously Smith's only just come back. But in terms of we said this. I remember us saying it. All the way back in January, where we kind of went, okay, this Krupi looks a good lad for the future, blah blah blah. And we said the only concern for me is, will we look back on January and go, should we have just helped and got a little bit more in? Because what I don't understand is we proved this season that Andoni subs are unbelievable. Well, I think we're top still of the amount of subs that come on and score or assist. It's unbelievable. So then to get rid of a couple on loan and stuff, not give him anyone when we've got injuries. So now one of his positives, which is changing the game from the bench, we ain't got a bench.
Yeah.
So I feel for him because he always tries something. I always said to you, didn't I, when Jemison was warming up, we're going, who's that? Oh, it's going to be a beef for Senesi. You know what he's going to do. And then Cook's going to play. Cook played everywhere.
People watch this and say, well, hang on a sec, you weren't saying that in January when you played Newcastle because, you had 12 senior players then.
No, we weren't saying it. Yeah. We said it's impressive because we've only got 12 seasons.
Yeah.
But the longer that
goes on, it's more unsustainable because players are going to get burnt out. And even the players like Semenyo that have started so many games and played the whole 90 minutes.
These players were, like you say, when it was 12 senior players, and we barely could. I think Jemison would come on every game, sometimes Winterburn, but we couldn't really make a sub. So all these players, of course, it's catching up with them a bit. No wonder Christie's carrying something. No wonder Semenyo's form's dipped because, the guy's not missed a minute. So, I think this. You never know, obviously, but it feels like this was always going to happen a little bit. But in terms of the subs, I thought it was great to see Smithy back. Not that he done loads, but he looked comfy. Jefferson ran around, but he just hadn't got the quality. Thought James Hill was alright, gave a few silly fouls away, but he was trying. The other two for me, I think Dango, there's context with Ramadan.
Yeah,
it's notable. It's noticeable. Sorry, because Dango, listen, he's made some bloody good impact off the bench. I wanted him on that pitch. I will dip into it and say, because normally I always agree Brooks comes off about the hour. Don't he? That's just what. I think there was a lot worse players than Brooks yesterday.
Yeah, there were.
And what I was thinking is, yes, we're playing this high intensity stuff, but against a team like City, and obviously second half we couldn't do it, we weren't doing it. You only get a ball a few times. You need someone to just put in a ball. That's Brooks. So I was surprised at that sub, but you don't know if he was, more kind of fatigued than others. Alex Scott. I agree with you, mate. The only positive I can say is I used to say the same thing about Lewis Cook. I don't know what he is in terms of midfield. Yeah, remember when we had that spell where we were like, is he attacking? Is he? And he's got age on his side, for sure, because I think we've spoken about Billing a lot. Yes. Billing is clearly a bloody good footballer. That's why he's at Napoli. But it wasn't going to work with Andoni. Yeah. The way he plays. We know he's a good footballer. The good thing with Scott is he's so young that he could mould him. But at the moment, it feels like I don't know where Scott can play in the system. And as much as there's clear ability there, when he comes on the pitch, we're immediately worse every single time. Yeah. And I think I said to you yesterday, I was like, when he come on, I was like, this is the stage now. Go and grab the game. Yeah. I've seen him so many times pick up the ball and just drive at people. Even that, because it's all right saying, well, he's not Christie, he's not that type of player. Yeah, but even when he gets the ball, he just loses it. Yeah. And he looks so lightweight, and I'm really frustrated with him at the moment. And yes, he's had some injuries and stuff, but obviously we're not kind of being overly critical. He's a young lad that's come on the pitch against Man City. It's bloody hard, and no one played brilliant in that second half. But I think he will be annoyed. I think Alex will be knowing every time I've got a chance, which is bloody hard because of how good our midfielders, I'm not taking it. He's not taking it. There's no game where I think, should we give Scott a go? No game.
That midfield three, if you want to call it that, it never involves Alex Scott.
No, and as soon as Smith's getting back, I just think we'll Cook down the midfield then. I don't think, suddenly we've got an option because I don't know if he's not quick enough to be in the 10, the Clivert role, if you like. I don't think he's solid enough to be a Tyler Adams. He certainly ain't got the energy to be Christie from what we've seen. So it was interesting because he played fullback for England on the 21s. But there's clear ability there. There's a really good age. So, let's see what happens. But maybe we're going to have to... You've got to remember, it wasn't an Andoni signing. And I just wonder if he's trying to mould him and it's just not quite working. It's just not quite working, mate. But, he's just not impacting games when he comes on, unfortunately, mate. But as I said, he still has to bring him on because we ain't got the options.
So look, Man City had a number of other chances. I think it was off the line at one stage, hitting the post, etc. And Bournemouth nowhere near it. It was. I thought that facing the North Stand in the second half, I thought that we would just hope to suck it in the net, but the atmosphere was gone. I think we all realised that the game was done, and the players weren't maybe giving us enough to get behind.
Home crowd had a bad second half as well, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And yes, it always feeds into each other, doesn't it? Yeah. But I think, understandably, I think everyone was just so deflated.
Yeah, we're more passive as a fan base, and rather than be proactive, which is what I'd rather us be. But that's just the way it is. And as we take a look at the average positions, you can see that fairly retreated from us, really, compared to what we usually see. But look at them. How can they not be targeting that left-hand side like that? They're stacked over there on the left. And it worked for them in the end. Tom, the heat maps again will show that barely in their final third whatsoever. Man City were hot all over the pitch, including, as we said, that right-hand side. So, yeah, we've talked about maybe some of the negatives. We've also spoke about the positives as well. You've mentioned Smith, Senesi.
I think Soler as well, just to give him a shout that he's never going to be Milos Kerkez.
He's put his name in the hat, for sure.
Yeah, he's shown that he's capable. And can be relied upon, which I was really pleased with.
Does this game maybe highlight how important the summer's going to be? If this kind of always advance, never retreat, this trajectory is going to continue, the summer is going to be quite big based on
of course,
players that we might lose as well.
Yeah, we'll lose some big players, mate. As I have said, as long as we keep Andoni, I'm all right. But it depends, But if we want to get to where we'll get to, we will. But we will anyway, because we'll get some money for some players for sure. And we'll do some bits, and obviously we already have, because Krupi will come back as well, so we'll be fine, mate. But it will maybe put in some people's heads that look, maybe when with Andoni ball and the way it's so impressive, we can't sustain it because don't get me wrong, we weren't as bad as we were second half, but let's remember that it's not just City that we were one up against. We were ahead against Brentford, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we were 2 up at Tottenham.
Yeah, I know.
So it's now becoming a little theme in the second half. We're dead.
It's in games, but also over the course of the season, it just feels like that. And look, let me mention Bielsa, because Andoni is this disciple of Bielsa.
By the way,
Bielsa ball, like tailing off in the second half of the season. That's what Leeds are doing this season, albeit under a different manager. But
that's such a shame.
Come
on, Scotty P.
So how do we? Yeah. How do we not do this in future?
Well, I think
tail off. Is it just having the players available?
I think it's just having more bodies. Yeah.
So part of it's luck.
And don't get me wrong. Kerkez shouldn't be suspended for this game. I mean, he never should have got a yellow card. Yeah. Houghton's silly, because you don't need to get these yellows. So the club and everyone will say, well, you can't justify that. Them two would have helped. But I think they will look at it and go, well, hang on. So first half of the season, or the spell where we were brilliant, everyone that come off the bench scored. Unal scored, Sinistero, so they all just come on and scored, and they were amazing, and everyone's like, bloody hell, Bournemouth subs. Now we ain't got any subs, and we keep being worse in the second. It's not rocket science. You can never justify injuries. I mean, City would have been an option. Suddenly he gets injured against Brentford. It is what it is, but it's quite obvious, I think, that, okay, if we're going to play this if we're going to back Iraola, which we should, because we're never going to get a better coach, then we need to look at it and go, right, he clearly needs to have options on the bench. He just does. And we've said before, it's whoever he brings on seems to work. And it's got to a stage where it looks to me like he's trying to do so much things, because he's going, how do I change it? He put Dango on the wing, and then literally in moments he went, actually, you got front. Because he's just trying to change it around, and he's limited to what he can do at the moment, mate. But the club will know that. It is what it is. It's, and the season ain't over. We could pick ourselves up again, but I just don't think we've got the options at the moment.
I feel as though, to use a sort of bottle of Coca-Cola analogy, as soon as you open it, start the season, it fizzes over, it goes everywhere. But obviously, as time goes on, it sort of goes a little bit flat. I feel as though we need to shake it up a little bit. And this needs to be because even me in my support, I'm sort of a bit tired of how things have been recently.
You are.
No, I haven't. I just want something to really sink my teeth into and think, we're on it again.
I know what you mean. It's
maybe these next 2 games will provide that. If we win them 2, happy days.
You just said about kind of going flat and this season. We're literally.
I know.
We're literally 3 points off Newcastle 6. We're 4 points off Champions League football.
I know.
So Calm down.
You know, it's what it is recency
bias,
but you know, whatever the opposite of that is.
Of course.
So look, maybe we can start to turn the tables in our next few fixtures. By the way, really nice to see loads of Manchester City young lads getting their shirts signed by Green. Oh, hang on, they're in the main stand. What?
I do. The only thing I would say is I do wonder if they're in hospitality, which you're allowed to, and they've just walked down. But yeah, it's always annoying.
But there were loads of them.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of them, unfortunately. But yeah, that seems to happen quite regularly. But oh, mate, I'm just still a big guy. That's why I'm really playing, even for myself, not just for the for team that we got a game Wednesday. Going there and bounce back as quick as we can, mate. It's a big game, and the good thing I think for us is that Ipswich, who are quite a tough nut to crack at times, we found that at their place. Yeah. They can't draw. They've got to win, so that'll help us because they have to score. So I think that'll help us, mate. And like you say, we've got a few bodies back in terms of the suspensions. So yeah, let's see. And there are some positives, like you say, Smithy, Celessi, some big positives in there. I think. Apart from feeding off scraps, I thought in that first half, Evan Nilsson was brilliant. Yeah. Thought he looked really, really good. And like I say, I thought some of them had all right games. It just didn't happen in the second half. Let's make sure we put the train back on the tracks, but we'll play the tractor boys, so maybe that analogy doesn't work. But look, let's see if we can get 3 points then. We've got a preview coming up. That'll be out tomorrow if you're watching or listening to this on Monday. But however you've been consuming this, appreciate it. You can do a couple of things if you're watching YouTube. Click the like button, click the little bell, and then click subscribe as well. We'd really appreciate it.
So, not to be, it was an FA Cup exit, and yet again, we couldn't get a semi. You Reds.
You've done that and semi in the same show.